from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, UK government to return £4.2 million recovered from friends and families of former Delta State Governor James Ibori to the federal government. President Muhammadu Buhari performs groundbreaking of Port Harcourt-Maiduguri Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway Project. Service chiefs visit Zamfara State, vow to go after bandits and kidnappers threatening peace in the country. And Buckingham Palace responds to race allegation raised by Meghan and Harry, says matter will be seriously addressed privately. Plus sports, business and later international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's merchandise trade deficit worsens, climbs to 7.37 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2020.
On sports news tonight, the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Mr. Sunday Dare, commissions the Real Madrid Football Academy in Port Harcourt, the River State capital.
And from Abuja, Central Bank releases 253 million naira grant for COVID-19 vaccine research.
There appears to be some success in Nigeria's fight against corruption, with the latest coming from the United Kingdom government, which plans to return to the federal government the sum of £4.2 million recovered from associates and family members of former Delta State Governor Mr. James Ibori. The Memorandum of Understanding for the return of the funds has been signed by the two countries, with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Apapa Malami signing on behalf of the Nigerian government, while the British High Commissioner Catriona Lang signed on behalf of the government of Britain. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
A two-term governor of Delta State, Mr. James Ibori, in February 2012, was accused of stealing 250 million United States dollars from the Nigerian public purse. He pleaded guilty to 10 counts of money laundering and conspiracy to defraud at Suffolk Crown Court, London, and in April of 2012, he was sentenced to 13 years imprisonment, but was later released in 2016 after serving just 4 years behind bars. This signing of Memorandum of Understanding between the British and Nigerian governments is for the return of 4.2 million British pounds, said to be from friends and family members of the former Delta State Governor.
These funds that we have secured the return of so far are from the friends and family of James Ibori. The case against James Ibori in terms of the amount to be returned directly from him is still ongoing.
She also states the position of the United Kingdom in siphoning of criminal proceeds from Nigeria to the UK.
That money attained through criminality, through theft, is not welcome in the UK. And we will use the full weight of our law enforcement to crack down on those who think they have found a safe haven. Don't send it to the UK.
On the part of the Nigerian government, the recovery of Ibori loot is a demonstration of political will to fight corruption, as it assures of adequate utilization of the funds.
The Federal Executive Council, under the able leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, has directed that the instant repatriated funds should be deployed towards the completion of the following legacy projects. 1. The second Niger Bridge. 2. Abuja to Kano Expressway, and 3. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, under the coordination of the Nigeria Social Investment Authority to ensure integrity of the process.
The federal government is expected to receive the £4.2 million in 2 weeks from now, based on the MOU signed.
What the citizens hope to see is a manifestation of this recovery in terms of better welfare and better economy for Nigeria. From the Federal Ministry of Justice, Abuja, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
We'll have more on the reaction of the nation's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, in the course of the bulletin. But staying with the judiciary, a federal high court sitting in Lagos has refused to discharge an interim order it granted, freezing the bank accounts of Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria and that of its subsidiaries. In her ruling, Justice Oluremi Oguntoyibo also summoned the secretaries and chief financial officers of two banks, Citibank Limited and United Bank for Africa PLC, for allegedly disobeying the interim ex parte order directing the freezing of the accounts. They are to appear before the court on the next adjourned date of March 29, 2021. Justice Oguntoyibo warned that their failure to appear would result in a warrant of arrest being issued against them. The judge made these orders while ruling on 3 applications in a suit filed by Iteo, Eastern E&P Company Limited against SPDC and 4 others. Iteo is claiming about $2.7 billion against the SPDC over alleged problems with the Nimbe Creek trunk line pipeline it bought from the Anglo-Dutch Group in 2015 and over claims that Shell undercounted its oil exports. As part of efforts aimed at reactivating economic activities along the Eastern Corridor, which has been greatly affected by insecurity, President Muhammadu Buhari has flagged off the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri rail project. During the virtual groundbreaking ceremony of 3 projects, which include the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway Project, Bonny Deep Sea Port and Railway Industrial Park, Port Harcourt, the President says the country's aspiration for nationwide transport infrastructure and railways will be significantly enhanced by these 3 projects conceived to be integrated in their operations.
Maiduguri Railway will translate to reactivation of economic activities along the Eastern Corridor, which has been greatly affected by insurgent activities and serve as a stimulus for industry and trade. The connection of the railway to a new seaport in Bonny Island and Railway Industrial Park, Port Harcourt, is designed to increase the viability and boost transshipment of cargo and freight locally across the West African sub-region and in the continental free trade area. The sum of the social, economic, and environmental benefits of these projects includes creation of massive employment locally. The second and the third projects are the Bonny Deep Sea Port and a Railway Industrial Park, Port Harcourt, that are to be constructed through direct investment by our Chinese partners and international financing agencies. These projects will serve transportation and supply chain network for domestic needs and export, as well as support imports into the hinterland of the country through the new deep sea port in Bonny Island, Rivers State. I therefore urge all Nigerians, especially industrialists, manufacturers, and businesses within the zones to take maximum advantage of this infrastructure in planning for expansion and building new factories to join in raising Nigeria's economy to the global stage and reaffirm our leading role in Africa.
President Muhammadu Buhari. Let's turn our attention now to security. The military says it is ready to flush out criminals terrorizing Zamfara State and other parts of Nigeria with a view to stopping Nigerians from living in fear. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, made this promise today during a one-day working visit to Zamfara State to assess security situation and ongoing military operations to end banditry and kidnapping in the state.
Nigeria's service chiefs are already getting on with their assignment on tackling the challenges confronting security. The Chief of Defense Staff, who led his team to Zamfara State to assess ongoing military operations in the northwest geopolitical zone, says it's time to bring insecurity to an end while fostering peace in the country.
We need you to support us. We need you to pass relevant information. You've been doing it, but I also pray and urge you to increase the tempo. I know that Zamfara has always been a peaceful state, but for the past few years, it's been in the news for the wrong reasons. And we think that time has come for us to reverse that trend. We, as members of the armed forces, as the instrument of state to ensure that there is peace and security, we will do all in our power, whilst encouraging those who want to live in peace to actually go about their businesses. Those who do not want us to live in peace, we will go after them.
The host governor, Bello Matawale of Zamfara State, on his part, called for troops and modern hardware from the federal government to the northwest to help deal with insecurity, and not just Zamfara.
There is also the need for more fighting equipment such as gun trucks and tankers to be placed, if possible, in most of the route of these criminals. If these troops sent to Zamfara be deployed to different camps, and not just to wait till after the attack before the security attack these criminals. They should go hunting them from one camp to another.
On the issue of the state government's dialogue process, Governor Matawale has this to say.
On the ongoing dialogue and the military action, within the 2-month time frame given by Mr. President for bandits to surrender, we shall intensify our dialogue efforts while at the same time sustaining military onslaught against recalcitrant bandits.
With deliberations made known at this meeting, it is expected that the service chiefs will make use of the information given while leveraging on the support by the Zamfara state government to succeed.
More than 27,000 people, including women and children, have been displaced from their homes in Beningwari local government area of the state as a result of banditry and kidnapping in Kaduna. The National Commission for Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons says it is partnering with other government agencies to alleviate the sufferings of displaced persons.
Beningwari local government area of Kaduna State, one of the epicenters of banditry and kidnapping, has been in the news over the years for the wrong reasons. Hundreds of residents of the area have been killed, while thousands of those still alive have been displaced from their homes due to constant attacks by bandits. With their houses and farmland destroyed or occupied by the bandits, the residents have lost their means of livelihood and have taken refuge in IDP camps. To ameliorate their sufferings, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons visits the camp with relief materials. The focus is to go beyond giving handouts, but to also work out modalities for them to return home.
As the federal government agency mandated to coordinate national action for the protection and assistance of all persons of concern, our focus moving forward is to go beyond giving handouts to providing more sustainable solutions of return or resettlement, rehabilitation, and reintegration. It is in line with this that the Commission is partnering with the Central Bank of Nigeria to implement Project Reliance.
The Kaduna State Deputy Governor and some of the internally displaced persons commend the gesture, but their biggest worry is that the attacks by bandits may not stop.
The incessant attacks is not just worrying to you, it is also to each and every one of us, especially for those of us from Kaduna. It has thrown quite a lot of our people into hardships that we can't even just imagine. losing your homes, losing your livelihood, and losing everything that you have ever worked for is something that is, takes an effect on a person, not just physically but also mentally.
Data from the Kaduna State Emergency Management Agency and National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons indicates that about 1,194 households have been affected by bandit attacks in Birnin Gwari local government alone.
In part two, after the break, we'll have more stories on security. Plus, police and Abia State governments demolished kidnappers' den in Isialangwa North local government area of the state. Join us again. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. UK government to return £4.2 million recovered from friends and families of former Delta State Governor James Ibori to the federal government. Attorney General Malami says funds being sought after is £100 million. President Muhammadu Buhari performs groundbreaking of Port Harcourt Maiduguri Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway Project. Service chiefs visit Zamfara State, vow to go after bandits and kidnappers, threaten peace in the country. And Buckingham Palace responds to race allegations raised by Meghan and Harry, says matter will be seriously addressed privately. We're in Taraba State, where no fewer than 6 persons traveling from Wukuri to Takum local government area have been abducted by bandits in the early hours of today. Police authorities in the state confirmed that the incident happened at Chachanji, a suburb of Takum local government area, where the bandits mounted a roadblock. The abducted travelers are 2 females, 3 males, and a toddler. Police say a combined team of security operatives were dispatched to the scene immediately. They received information on the attack and are currently tracking the perpetrators. This is a building and buildings also at Ezealan Sulu in Isialangwa North local government area of Abia State being pulled down following allegations that the occupants are involved in kidnap activities and other vices. According to the Special Advisor on Security to the Abia State Governor, Okezie Piazu, the action is aimed at eliminating all forms of criminal activities in the state.
Going by the laws of the state, as enacted at the State House of Assembly, wherever and however contact is made with kidnappers in any particular building and weapons they recovered, that building must be brought down. That's the law. And that's exactly what has happened here. So I use this opportunity to tell Abians that the present government, under the watch of His Excellency Okezie Victor Ikpeazu, PhD, has zero tolerance for crime.
Let's go now to Abuja, where Terry Kum is standing by with more on the News at 10. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Marachi, and welcome to the nation's capital. A total of 253 million naira has been disbursed to 5 researchers for local production of COVID-19 vaccines and other diseases. The Central Bank Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, explains that the intervention aims at promoting intense research and development activities towards production of vaccines and drugs to curb the spread of other communicable diseases as well as the non-communicable ones.
Only a few days ago, the nation received 3.92 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. While that's no longer news, what seems to be the latest news is that 5 researchers from the country's academic institutions have been given grants to produce vaccines. At this meeting, the central bank governor rails out how the 5 researchers were carefully selected.
We need to encourage our brothers and sisters in the academia so that they can, rather than take flight abroad, they can stay back at home and go straight into research that will help our people. Let me reiterate that the review of proposals is still ongoing, and we expect the committee to provide recommendations for additional award of grants in due course.
While the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the fragility of the nation's healthcare system and the urgent need to look inward and build a more robust and sustainable healthcare system, this latest gesture by the Apex Bank is a good move to reduce importation of vaccines and other drugs into the country.
This modest attempt that is started by the Central Bank of Nigeria would translate into establishing very formidable institutions, so that if we are confronted with another pandemic, that will definitely come. Not in our time, but generations that would follow would be able to look back and say, yes, a modest attempt has translated into a formidable platform of innovation.
Boosting the morale of our own researchers will create a value chain that has ripple effect in terms of more jobs for our citizens, significant decreased over-dependence on advanced nations for vaccines and other important drugs, and we can start to reduce the huge capital flight involved in procuring vaccines and other drugs from foreign countries.
And one after the other, the 5 recipients step out to receive their grants. Hopefully, this intervention will offer Nigerians access to the much-needed vaccines and other drugs for the treatment of other diseases.
Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, Lagos State has joined the list of states that have received the COVID-19 vaccine. According to the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the vaccine arrived in the state in the early hours of today. He was speaking during an event in Lagos today.
I want to encourage, like the First Lady said, all of us to continue to observe all of the non-pharmaceutical protocols of the COVID-19. As yes, we have flattened it, but it's still very much with us. And I want to use this opportunity to announce that at about 4 a.m. today, Lagos State received our own consignment of the vaccine, and so it's in our custody. And so we are working out a clear strategy with the federal government, with the National Primary Health Board, to ensure that all of the frontline health workers, both in the private and public health facilities, will come forward and will start administering their own vaccine.
Still on the vaccines, the governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, has taken his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine at his office in Okemosan, Abeokuta, the state capital. It was administered by the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tomi Koka. Members of the State Executive Council and frontline health workers were also vaccinated. States across the country have also taken delivery of the COVID-19 vaccine. Nasarawa State received over 61,000 doses of the vaccine, and the inoculation of the vaccine has started immediately, with health workers taking the front row, while political office holders will receive theirs tomorrow, and then people from 50 years and above. A total of 50,000 doses of the vaccine was deployed to Benue State, and the state government is encouraging residents to take advantage of its availability to get vaccinated. And that's it from Abuja. Back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Terry. Members of the Parliamentary Workers Association of Nigeria today barricaded the entrance of the National Assembly in Abuja. And they were protesting the non-implementation of President Buhari's Executive Order 10, which he signed into law last year, granting financial autonomy to state legislature and the judiciary. The protesters, who displayed several placards, chanted solidarity songs and accused the governors of frustrating efforts at implementing the law. It also called on the Attorney General of the Federation and lawmakers to prevail on governors and the Implementation Committee for speedy implementation of the order.
I can't hear you. If we don't want the legislation, then why are we in democracy?
Politics. Now the People's Democratic Party continued the accreditation of delegates for the South-South Zonal Congress today in Rivers State, despite an order from the court suspending the exercise. A high court in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, had issued an order that the Zonal Congress be suspended pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. When Channels Television visited the designated venue of the Congress at the Obiwali Cultural Center, this morning, PDP leaders from Rivers State, led by its chairman, Mr. Desmond Akao, were seen monitoring the level of preparations. They said they're yet to be served the court notice. When we come back after the break on the news at 10, the royal family responds to allegations of racist remarks about Meghan and Harry's son and other stories. Join us again. Welcome back. The usual traffic congestion in the Apapa area of Lagos and its environs is gradually fading away following a new electronic system of admitting trucks. Our correspondent Olu Phillips, who has been monitoring the situation in the area, tells us more.
An estimated 4,876 vessels entered the Nigeria port yearly. By half year 2019, for instance, the federal government said to have raked in approximately 382.52 billion naira as revenue generated by the Nigeria Customs Service. For the records, these numbers are emanating from the nation's two major economic gateways, the Apapa and the Thinkan Island ports. Over the years, activities at the Apapa Wharf attributably largely contributed to the constant gridlock in the Apapa axis. Despite having other ports in Nigeria which include Calabar Port Complex, Cross River Port, Delta Port, Warri Port, River Port Complex and Onne Port Complex, Apapa and Thinkan Island Port handled over 70% of Nigeria's import cargoes. The fallout of this intense pressure soon distilled into the protracted traffic congestion in that axis and beyond, also leading to dilapidation of road network. In response, successive governments did attempt many reforms and strategies, including the last presidential tax team headed by the Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Following the relative success recorded by the team based on the terms of reference, February 2021, the NPA boss Hadeza announced another reform, a collaborative action with the Lagos State government, which introduced an electronic call-up system.
Anything electronic seeks to remove human intervention, and in so doing, it will eliminate aspects of rent-seeking, aspects of extortion. It takes away that idea that an officer, be it an Nigerian port security or police force or LASMA, that person is now the person that gives you the authority to go into the port. So that avenue where there is extortion possibilities and there is rent-seeking will be taken away from people, and of course there will be an element of pushback.
Days after that announcement, the roads into the Premier Port is all rid of articulated trucks.
For us in the trucking industry, we want to jealously guide that this Eto platform with a transit truck park will work, because our names and images have been so battered, like truckers are the ones causing the problem, and government does not want to really look into the part that they also have issues in terms of, sanctioning some of the concessionaires are making sure that they update their equipment and their system to accommodate what is going on. You know that with APMT, for instance, some of the importers, they have their deposits, and whether you go in on time or you return the empty at the wrong time, your deposit is depleting.
In simple terms, the strategy says you can't get onto the port road except you have been called up through an electronic system. It is, however, a different view on the roads leading to the Tinkan Island port, which is essentially serviced or approached from the Oshodi-Oworonshoki Expressway. You didn't need to look too far to find the impediment: the road construction. With over 2,000 trucks besieging these two ports daily, it is perhaps not yet uhuru as regards traffic free flow. The days ahead will prove if sufficient thinking and planning had gone into the electronic call-off system, and if the road construction upon completion will indeed improve traffic situation. Altogether, the call to spread out the cargoes to other ports in Nigeria is yet to happen. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Business News is next. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria recorded a foreign trade deficit of 7.37 trillion naira in 2020, while the total trade in 2020 stood at 32.42 trillion naira. And that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. In its foreign trade in goods statistics report for the fourth quarter of 2020, the NBS says the country's total merchandise trade stood at 9.12 trillion naira, which is a 8.9% increase against the amount recorded in the third quarter of 2020. At the same time, the export component of trade was higher by 6.7% at 3.19 trillion naira, while total imports reached a record high at 5.92 trillion naira in the fourth quarter, indicating an increase of 10.1% over the preceding quarter. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has lifted its growth forecast for this year to 5.6%, up from 4.2% projected in December 2020. At the same time, the Paris-based intergovernmental organization also expects 4% growth for 2022, which is a 1.4% increase from the 3.7% forecast made last year. The recovery, which is based on the global deployment of COVID-19 vaccine, will be largely led by the United States, and that's due to President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus program. Meanwhile, the OECD projects that other regions and the world may continue struggling until the end of 2022, as nearly 10 million more people across its member states are out of work compared to the period before the pandemic. Global oil demand is expected to rise to 5.06% by the end of 2021, and that's according to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. In its February 2021 oil market report, OPEC mentions that crude demand would rise from 93.22 to 97.94 million barrels per day between the first and fourth quarter of the year. A breakdown of the report shows that demand would increase by 0.13% in the first quarter, 14.4% in the second quarter, 6.4% in the third quarter, and 4.3% in the fourth quarter of 2021. The prediction is expected to be driven by actions of OPEC and non-OPEC members in the coming months. Meanwhile, the price of Brent has fallen below $68 per barrel amid easing concerns of supply disruption in Saudi Arabia and rising US dollar. The international price benchmark dropped by 1.06% to $67.52 per barrel by 10 p.m. local time, after reaching $71.38 on Monday, its highest level since January the 8th, 2020. The latest round of U.S. inventory reports, which is due on Wednesday, are expected to show crude stockpiles declined. Meanwhile, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies will meet on Thursday to decide on output cuts. After starting off the new week in the green, the local stock market reversed to negative territory today, following renewed sell-off on some high-value equities. Laddie Williams tells us more.
Hello, welcome to the Stock Market Reports. Contrary to expectations of positive sentiments, our domestic stock market reversed the entire gains recorded on Monday after investors switched back to profit-taking mode at the close of today's trading session. And the bear is back again, and this time it bit off 1.80% from the market's main index, knocking off from 39,000 points and 371 billion naira from the total value of listed equities. A trader I spoke to today attributes the renewed downturn to uncertainty by investors over corporate earnings, government policies, portfolio rebalancing, and scarcity of forex, which is an incentive for portfolio investors. And now let's take a look at the sectoral performance charts. The banking counter was hardest hit with the impact of sell pressure as it plunged 5.30%, following losses from Tier 1 lenders, UBA in particular. And this is because investors are not impressed with the bank's full year 2020 earnings, despite a satisfactory result recorded in its group performance. Over to the activity chart, the total volume of shares traded was significantly higher at more than 540 million units and over 5,300 transactions. Apparently, these are uncertain times for the market, but with its dynamic nature, a surprise could be in the making. And that's the Stock Market Report. It's back to you.
Thanks a lot, Laddie. On the other hand, major global markets ended Tuesday's trading session mostly in the green, following a decline in bond yields and rebound on big tech shares. Well, let's take a look at the closing numbers for the day. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Shoboale. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Teniola. And staying with our lead story tonight about the United Kingdom planning to return to the federal government a sum of £4.2 million recovered from associates and members of former Delta State Governor Mr. James Ibori's family. The Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, has explained that the money Nigeria is actually expecting to recover is about £100 million. The AGF disclosed this while featuring on our program, Politics Today, where he further spoke on why the recovered loot should go to the federal government and not state.
As far as the composition of people is concerned, I think the fundamental issue of consideration and of interest to Nigerians is Ibori is the principal character. And being the principal character, he had indeed stood trial and was accordingly convicted. And then arising from that conviction, these recoveries of today are being made. As to the details of who are involved, associated judicial proceeding is still ongoing. Recently, again, we succeeded in recovering about 5.4
million euros from Ireland. And again, we are, as it is now, succeeded in recovering 4.2 million pounds from UK. We are still pursuing other assets, inclusive of the fact that even as it relates to the Ibori's asset, the quantum of the amount involved was within the region of over 100 million pounds, and it is out of it that we have succeeded in recovering a fraction of 4.2 million pounds, and we are still pursuing additional sum within the region of estimated region of 100 million pounds, and that will, as I stated earlier, be a function of conviction and the subsequent recovery process. Ever since we took a decision to challenge the judgment, it has been a success story all the way, and then our position as a government is being strengthened day in, day out, and we are very optimistic at the end of the day, taking into consideration the justice and fairness of the judicial system in UK. We will, by God's grace, be happy at the end of the day, and we expect a very positive outcome. We have a strong case that is becoming more stronger by the day, and we are very hopeful and optimistic. So the position we are is the final determination of the case, and necessary witness statements have been indeed filed in the court processes in readiness for the final determination of the case.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has flagged off the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri rail project during the virtual groundbreaking ceremony of the three projects, which include the rehabilitation and reconstruction of Port Harcourt-Maiduguri Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway Project, Bonny Deep Sea Port and Railway Industrial Park, Port Harcourt. The President says the country's aspiration for nationwide transport infrastructure and railways would be significantly enhanced by these three projects conceived to be integrated in their operations. Queen Elizabeth says royals are saddened by the challenging experience of Prince Harry and his wife Meghan, and promised to privately address the revelations about racist remarks about their son. A comment comes as Meghan, in an interview with Oprah Winfrey, accused Britain's royal family of raising concerns about how dark their son Archie's skin might be and ignoring her pleas for help while she considered suicide. The Queen said in the statement, "The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately. Harry, Meghan and Archie will always be much-loved family members." Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Crisis meetings involving senior royals have taken place following the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's interview as Buckingham Palace is under pressure to respond to allegations of racism.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
In the interview, Meghan Markle also said that she found royal life so difficult that at times she didn't want to be alive anymore, and when she approached the institution for help, she did not get it. Meanwhile, Meghan's estranged father, Thomas Markle, has said that he does not think the British royal family is racist and that his daughter and Prince Harry should have waited.
The thing about what color will the baby be or how dark will the baby be, I'm guessing and hoping it's just a dumb question from somebody. You know, it could just be that simple. It could be somebody asked a stupid question rather than being a total racist.
Dozens of Myanmar anti-coup protesters who had been cornered overnight by security forces in Yangon have escaped from the area where they were trapped. About 200 people were caught in a 4-street area in Shanchuang district, which the police sealed off. According to the United Nations, many of those trapped were women marching in support of International Women's Day. Police have also chased protesters and fired at them in the country's northern Kachin state. A video has emerged of a Myanmar nun kneeling in front of policemen in a northern town, pleading with them to stop shooting protesters. Over 60 people have been killed and more than 1,800 detained in the crackdown on protesters. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has announced that fully vaccinated Americans can meet with other vaccinated people without wearing masks.
And with more and more people getting vaccinated each day, we are starting to turn a corner.
The agency's new guidance for fully vaccinated individuals has also stipulated that they can also visit with unvaccinated, low-risk people from one other household without masks. This is the first time in almost a year that Americans can return to some sense of normality. The US has seen a recent uptick in the number of vaccinations per day. Over 90 million vaccinations have been administered there to date. Police and activists have clashed in Mexico City at a march to mark International Women's Day. Violence erupted when women marching to the government palace clashed with police officers who were dressed in riot gear and used fire extinguishers to stem the demonstration. Officers also forced back protesters with tear gas and riot shields in the capital's main square. Protesters had been calling for the government to address the country's poor record on the murder of women, as figures suggest that at least 939 women were victims of femicide in 2020. The US has reversed a decision to temporarily ease sanctions on Israeli billionaire Dan Gertler, who is accused of corruption over mining deals in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The latest US move reverses a decision granted in former President Donald Trump administration's final days. Mr. Gertler is accused of corruption and abusive mining practices and using his partnership with former Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila to secure deals. The US Treasury initially imposed the sanctions against Mr. Gertler in 2017 and 2018. The death toll from a series of explosions in Equatorial Guinea's city Bata has soared to 98. Around 600 people have been previously reported as injured, and President Teodoro Obiang Nguema says almost all the city's homes and buildings have been damaged. The Foreign Ministry has pleaded for international help as the deadly blasts have been attributed to negligence related to the handling of dynamite. And finally, an Italian restaurant in Tunisia has invented Africa's most expensive pizza, with each costing up to $360. The restaurant's founder wanted to break the record for the most expensive pizza in Africa and create a product so exclusive that it does not exist elsewhere. The dish is covered with 24-carat gold leaf, and it is topped with truffles and smoked duck breast. Mr. Hergel said that his luxurious pizza is meant for people who come from abroad or to Tunisians who want it, as there were people who travelled to buy expensive food. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Ayotunde Balogun standing by with sports news.
Yes, indeed, Amarachi. River State Governor Nyesom Wike says his administration is setting the pace in the development of football talents and revenue generation with the establishment of the Real Madrid Football Academy in the state. The academy, which is open to kids between ages 5 to 17 years, was founded in 2019 by the state governor, having been given the franchise to operate by the Real Madrid Foundation.
Strategically located near the foremost Yakubu Gowon Stadium in Port Harcourt is the Real Madrid Football Academy, said to be one of Governor Wike's dearest projects in Rivers State. Modeled after the famous Real Madrid Academy in Spain, the Port Harcourt Institute is structured to a hub for grooming of educated sportsmen and women. Former Nigerian footballers extol the leadership style of Governor Wike, especially in the area of sports development.
What is happening, sir, is that we allow our budding talents to get to adulthood before we discover them, by which time they are already set in their ways. And if they've not been doing it right, they cannot do it right anymore. But what you've done now, sir, to catch them young and then take them through this professional tutelage, as I said, in their formative years, is what has been lacking. And that is the biggest achievement of this project, sir. And I salute you once more for it.
For the special guest, the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, the academy is what the nation needs.
When we talk about the 3 I's in sports development, infrastructure, incentive, investment, this academy